Hello and welcome to YesterYear's Mac Games, where today we're looking at a title that is a bit older than what I usually focus on. Capitalist Pig is a business simulation game that puts you in the driving seat of a company. Your task is to market and sell a product, and steer the organisation that produces it through whatever difficulties it may encounter. Capitalist Pig got a boxed release in 1991. Online sources suggest that while there was a version for PC, the Macintosh edition was more successful and sold more, which is why at time of recording, only the Mac version is archived and available to download. The game will run on older 68K machines with System 6 and a single megabyte of available RAM. It has colour graphics, alongside a black and white mode for the Macs that have a monochrome screen, which in 1991 was most of them. This then was predominantly the work of one individual, sans the illustrations and sounds that were done by others. The concept, design, and programming of this game came from David C. Thomas. Capitalist Pig came with a fairly hefty manual that explains the mechanics of the game. I don't have it, and it never got scanned and posted online. So if you are familiar with this game, and see me doing something stupid or interpreting something incorrectly, do offer corrections in the comments. The more info the better. The first thing to deal with, upon booting up the game, is the copy protection. Luckily, the game's download comes with all the answers to the startup questions that you need. After that, you're free to start a game. Most of the big decisions need to be made before you start. What is your company's name? What is the product going to be called? And what is your starting capital? Here, YY's MG Corp will be manufacturing, marketing, and selling the De-Phlibulatron. The game spares you of having to actually specify what on earth the product actually is or does, and instead has you dealing with its positioning. There are 3 menus of options that need wading through to get the simulation started. In these, the target demographic is specified, the effect of boom, slump, war, and peace are chosen, the gross margin is set, that's the markup after production costs are taken into account, insurance and compensation can be tweaked, and the all-important marketing plan can be specified. Marketing is of course the most important thing, and I'm not just saying that because it's my day job. You can make an overpriced, underspec'd, unserviceable product with bizarre and pointless features incredibly desirable with good marketing. Capitalist Pig therefore allows the players to set how they want their product positioned. Some things will clash. Setting the spend to nothing on public relations and setting the USP as service isn't going to work, while setting that to price will be at odds with a gross margin slider which is too high. Some of these settings, of which effects I haven't figured out due to not having a manual, include the production costs and cash flow. The latter might have something to do with the taxed audit event, but I've set these high and tried the event out, and irrespective to this and how much money there was in the bank, I've been closed down, with no explanation. Answers why on the back of a postcard, please. So with all of that sorted out, the simulation can begin, and the player progresses to the game's main screen. This is the layout of your office, where various departments are plopped down. There's 4 types. Sales takes orders, assembly puts the product together, shipping handles logistics, and the number of managers needed depends on how many other employees are employed. To maximise revenue and keep cash flow balanced, staff will be hired and laid off accordingly. Near the bottom right-hand corner are the supply and demand bars, which give a vague indication of whether sales and production are keeping up with demand, or if staff are being overworked. You can find out what a department's workload is through selecting the magnifying glass tool and clicking on them. A nice visual will pop up with the workload and efficiency bars, which ideally will be high, but not too high in case of the workload one. If demand is outstripping supply, the obvious response is to hire more staff. But if cash is tight, or a war or a slump is predicted, it might be a better idea to raise the gross margin instead, so all the inventory is sold off for a higher price. I fell into the trap of expanding too fast in one of my earlier games, building up a big office with lots of people until Archduke got hungry and shot an ostrich, starting World War I. I didn't realise just how big an effect this would have for demand of the De-Phlibulatron. I figured it would be quite useful in the trenches, to be honest. And by the time I'd cottoned on to that, everything was going down the gurgler. I was unable to fire everybody in time and adjust spending before I ran out of cash. Oh, what was that I heard you ask? World War I? That's right. The game simulates 90 or so years of humanity's history. Real-world events make it into the game and will affect the climate. Other things that need to be managed include tracking down and eradicating embezzlement, which I don't know how to do, maintaining a good public image by attempting to stay scandal-free, maintaining a good working environment for employees, and sorting things out when they strike for better conditions. You can also work towards floating the company with a public offering. Your advisors will offer a few tips on what the climate is looking like, and pointing out potential issues. But it's quite high level and vague, so a player is left to making the decisions themselves. Most simulation games of the era liked to do a Sim City and wedge a bunch of disasters into the game. Capitalist Pig is no exception. You can have them occurring randomly as you play, or select them from the drop-down to trigger them as you please. There are a few aforementioned business-related ones in among them, but the most memorable is the fire, which makes your mouse a fire extinguisher as the office goes up in flames. Out of all the games I played, this seems to happen automatically after 20 or so seconds after starting the sim. Trying to fight the fire seems to be moderately pointless. I felt like I was playing whack-a-mole as new fires sprung up as fast as I could put them out. Overall, no department survived. There's also what the game terms a terrorist incident, where a disgruntled employee goes on a rampage and shoots and bombs bits of the office. I've noticed that none of the employees bother doing anything when the chaos is going on, and continue to work happily away while the room next to them is filled with bloody bodies. What? Sales Team C are splattered all over the floor? Fantastic. We'll easily beat them in sales revenue this year. So aside from a few silly situations like this, which are totally optional and can be turned off, Capitalist Pig is a pretty respectable business management game. I do feel that it's a simulation first and a game second, as aside from ranking among the top companies listed in the Pig Pen, there aren't set objectives. You're specifying your own goals, your own conditions, aka difficulty, and are very much doing what you want. The most obvious gaming comparison is probably 1995's Capitalism, which saw the player running a sales and/or manufacturing business and managing supply chains on a much larger scale. It's a lot more advanced, which is to be expected given it had a much larger budget and development team, and was much newer. But with the concept of Capitalist Pig being a lot more specific and targeted, and ultimately having completely different gameplay, the game is able to bring a unique experience that isn't totally eclipsed by other offerings. A wider variety of things to do, and incidents to steer the business through, would of course increase the game's longevity and replayability. But overall, I think it has enough inside it to be worth playing. I view Capitalist Pig as a genuine hidden gem, and I would urge any fan of business management and company simulation games to give it a shot. If you lack the hardware, try out emulation options such as Mini VMac, which emulates an old compact Mac, or Basilisk 2. That's it then for this edition of YesterYear's Mac Games. As mentioned before, I'm particularly interested in finding out about the mechanics of this game that I just wasn't able to figure out on my own. So do share your thoughts and experiences in the comments, or on the Twitter. You can find me at YYsMG. For more old Mac game reviews, check out my other videos, and subscribe to keep on top of new content. Thanks for watching then, and see you next time.